Good morning. Yeah. When I came back in here yesterday afternoon, sure enough, all the little tingly stuff, they're like little tiny pins. They're like little fire pins. Like little flame. Little tiny flames, little ignition coils. And so I came back in there. So when I said it was like being drunk on energy, it's like being heavy. Boy, you took on a lot of energy. Yeah, so now what we're going to do is just rest. Slow the breathing down a little bit. You're going into a meditative state. Go deep into your heart and your soul. And just and allow your template, your DNA to process it, right? Which is really activating all the stuff that's activating, right? All the good stuff. What I call the good stuff. I did forget to share something with you, Mohawk, though, yesterday. And this is how it works. There's just, you're cross-indexing an enormous amount of information that's held within the field, which is an information field, right? Numbers are energy. Number and letters are energy. Symbols are energy. And so you're collating. I call it collating, or what I call indexing, the same way. Simplify it in more modern terms, because we have related experiences of cross-indexing together the libraries that we run on based on what we remember or what's held in memory, right? What an indexing when you go in a public library, like when you were in a little school, remember the little Cardex system that they have? You're looking for a particular book or something you want to research, or you were in school and you were given an assignment, and then you'd have to go to the Cardex system. Remember, what was it called? The Dewey Decimal System, I think it was, Dewey. And then that's a whole other story on Dewey. I'll just give you the short story on Dewey. Dewey was a professor out of the University of Michigan during the early 1900s, and the United States of America, which is all corporate military, all planet stuff, pirates, controllers, psychopathway, mental pathway, AI stuff, alien machinery, alien intelligence. It's alien to us. Foreign. Ooh, a foreigner. I have to have a sense of humor with this stuff, because otherwise it's very easy to get consumed by it. Right? And so when I was listening to one of the videos this morning with the Voyager materials, as a matter of fact, I was really, in some ways, because of the way that security stuff works, on what actually gets released into what we call the public domain, right? Because the people just get taken out, right? And those that are associated with those, because they don't want this stuff getting out there. So and I've mentioned how this sort of works over the course of my own life, frequency modulation. And in this particular episode, which is called "The Dance for Freedom," that's the name of the videos. It's a group of videos that they did called "Dance for Freedom," which are really workshops. This one was 9/14, so that would have been video 9 out of 14. And the channel is the Admiral Covenant. And the gentleman that was talking about scanning the field. That's what I do. Remember, you've heard me talk about map reads. I'm map reading the templates, the manifestation templates, which is the manifestation field, which is based on mathematical indexing, which are the algorithms, thought form algorithms, right? And then you have what we think, or thought forms. We have what we feel, what I feel through my heart and my soul, right? So I knew as a 4-year-old child, hey, I'm on a spiritual battlefield because I'm translating the math. And math doesn't add up. So you know that you're in an energy harvesting system, right? That's siphoning off spiritual energy. Okay, so you're making a map read of the environment that your consciousness is operating, your soul consciousness is operating in an environment, right? With an operating system, right? Okay, so you realize that the planetary consciousness field, now you're doing a map read of the planetary consciousness field. That's what I was doing at 4 years of age. Mapping the planetary consciousness field. you're in a fallen system. Okay? So when you put the 12 tribes, the templates of the universal and galactic template, creation, manifestation, fields, right, between the higher stuff, the higher heavenly realms, right, and then the lower realms between density and dimensions, right? So when you get into the multidimensional learning side of this, you're making map reads of density levels and dimensional levels, right? My arm's going like this. And so you're mapping, it's called mapping the terrains, mapping the terrain. You know, Terra, Gaia, Terra, you're mapping the density levels. So that's when you get an electrical density consciousness. So what I'm matching is the resistance that a DNA template has to experience the purity of the energy, which is consciousness, in their own state of consciousness, which is the purity of your spirit, which is the purity of the fire that is purifying the water. Now we're into living water, living air, living elementals, all the molecules, spirit in the molecules, which is the purity of the energy, which is the purity of the consciousness that is experiencing the purity of who we are, which is our ability to do what? Burn off anything that is less than what love is. Right? That means that you've made an identity distinction of who your true self is, who your soul is, what you know that you're connected to, from which it all began. So you know it began out of what love is, right? Otherwise your mirror is going to go dark, right? You won't be able to see yourself. Hey, I'm blindfolded. I can't see. No colors. There's no colors. Everything's just dark, right? You know, and the obvious metaphor in all that is when you're a little kid and you're walking down a hallway that's lit so you can see everything that's there. So there isn't anything to be afraid of, but you're bringing the light in because the light is what we are in spirit, right? And there's a room that you got to go into, a big room, right? But you haven't been in this room before. So you don't know what's in there, right? Or do you? Can you see through the wall? Yes. Even when it's dark? Yes. That's a different discussion. But the way that this works is the way in which I'm meaning to impart it is, have you ever done this? Have you ever actually walked up and in your mind you've already manifested the next frame that you're going to experience, which means you've already seen yourself flip the switch, which means the light's already on, so you already know what's in there. That's a forward-looking glass. A forward event. The next event that you've actually already experienced in your mind, but in your physical body you haven't experienced it yet. So you already know what's in there, even though you haven't physically walked in there yet. Like that. That's a manifestation template of a future event. So you're dragging your body along because it's moving at a little bit of a slower speed because of everything that you know that you're connected to that's related to density and dimension. Yep. So this is how when this morning, for example, I normally get up around anywhere between 6:30 and 7:30. It depends here. Because of the way that the energies work on the island here, you know, and so a lot of that energy that I picked up yesterday when I woke up this morning, I had a lot of dreams, and they talked about dreams, about how much of being in a dream state when you wake up can you actually remember, still have the connection to that, and I was able to do that and hold on to it for several hours. As a matter of fact, I still have it now. I was riding in a van, and I had bare feet, and I'm going down the road, and I'm realizing, hey, where am I going? Well, I don't have my shoes on. Well, I'm going to have to walk all the way back. I'm in this vehicle as if, well, where am I really going? And then I realized, oh, well, you might as well just take the ride wherever they're going. Now you're going to have to walk all the way back, right? I thought, no, I don't want to have to walk all the way back because I don't have the same calluses on my feet that I used to have when I was a kid, walking around bare feet everywhere I went, right? So you know where that is. Yeah, so I didn't finish what I wanted to share with you when I was in a motel room in Reno, Nevada in 2016 when I lit myself on fire, right? Which is to let go. No separation from the girl's side. Okay. And so you can't fool the one. So that's when I mentioned before in the past about how I took my headset off. I'm done with these folks, which means I'm done with this reality. Okay. That's really what it is. That's a metaphor for I'm done with this reality. I'm done using any of my energy to experience what they are anymore. Right. And so what happens is that, I went deep into my heart and my soul. And it's like experiencing yourself being on fire and having the fire that is represented by the goddess, that nuclear reactor state. I want to experience all your fire. Give me all your fire and soul and spirit. Right? And what it means is I'm willing for the fire that is represented by what I am in fire as male, as one side of the nuclear equation, to never be separated from the nuclear side of what you are in energy, which is your fire. So I'm not living in fear to have you put your fire to me, to burn me, and burn me right through your eyes. Look directly from soul to soul, spirit to spirit. I'm just as much, I want to experience all your fire as much as I want you to experience all my fire. Bang. You do that at the soul level, you launched yourself to become an oversoul. Everything changes radically after that on what you become aware of. That's why I experienced the echo chamber, the planet, the magnetosphere, all the pressure changes that are taking place, and now your antenna goes cosmic. All that energy just comes up out of the top of your crown chakra, and that's a cosmic level reset. That's zero resistance to experience that. That's fearless. That's spirit of fire. How much fire you got in you? Right? So that would be as if how much fire a god has, with how much fire that a goddess has, to never be separated from each other ever. So they are in perfect balance. One in three, 3 in 1, or 1 in 300. Remember the Spartans? 300. That's why when those things that you put up sometimes about the numbers, the AI plays number games. 13. Okay? These numbers are not coincidental. Numbers are energy, letters are numbers. The information field, mathematical algorithms, they get folks to be able to use their energy to generate how those algorithms work with the information field that's based on the mathematical field, to cross-index how those numbers work in order to have our energy be used in order to manifest it so more people experience it. In order to do what? Lower the vibration. What we experience by what gets manifested onto the physical plane that we now become aware of in our projection screen. You know, the gematria stuff. Yeah. And so that's what they do. That's why whenever I see that kind of stuff anymore, I don't even pay attention anymore to my Facebook page anymore. It's just like, man, you know, you want to live in Babylon? It's just like, what's her name? Dr. Mummy Saraki did this morning. You know, we all have free will, and so I don't impose my will on nobody, but it's one of the reasons that I've always sort of chosen to be with Mama in the deep woods and places like that, so I can experience the music that's being played by plants and trees, rather than the music that they play on these phones, so to speak. You know, I would be the main truth is because I was sent a signal over a year ago, Mohawk, to get rid of my phone and quit using energy to be hooked up on this communication platform, because it's not like you need to do that in order to know what's going on and spread your love everywhere we go, right? Things will naturally take care of itself by virtue of the energy of the hour in which it happens that way, naturally, when you're always in balance with all there is, right? Between the two nuclear reactors that join forces to become one, which is a mononuclear pole. You know, go take a look at the planet, Chip. That's one pole. Okay. On the vertical and the horizontal. And so you're one with all creation that you're gifting love to, and that makes it pretty simple. But I'll come back in a little bit and talk about, for those that are interested, I just put it into the system, about cross-indexing, right? And how this works related to perception, right? So, for example, I can say a few things about what it is that I'm experiencing, but unless you're who I am, you're not going to know what my intent was. So what happens is, when I put the words that are up there, or the letters that are arranged up there, in the manner in which you now visually see it as text form, which is hypertext, which is hyperspeed, that gets translated in your own template by virtue of what you're holding in memory that is cross-indexed to your own experiences, is still being held captive, that represents the difference between the resistance and a capacitor. I had to share that one time with another girl. What's her name? The girl that's always on the Galactic Talk. I can't remember her name. She worked with Patty Broussard when she made a comment to me one side, and saying the perception that you have of what I communicated to you is the perception that you have in yourself, because that's your mirror, not my mirror. You wouldn't know the intent of what I was actually experiencing in energy by virtue of the words that I was using and why I communicated what I communicated, which is putting the mirror up. Right? Which means I become aware of what I become aware of by virtue of being aware of what others are aware of. I translate that and then put the translation back up so that others can see what that mirror is communicating. But how they intend to experience or translate what that information means to them, I have no idea. Because I'm not translating that energy for you. You're translating that energy. So her translation of what she was translating is based on her own perception, which is based on the vibration and frequency that she's using to translate it with. That becomes her translation. Not my translation, her translation. Okay? So in other words, that was your translation. Because the English language, okay, does not represent the normal language of Mua. Right? Remember, now it's back to, the language, how language and vibration and frequencies related to the original core temple of the language that was spoken, which is the language of DNA, which is mathematical, which is music. That's when you get into Babel, what happened with all the languages. Right? Languages are symbols. Symbols are math. Symbols represent energy. Symbols and energy represent consciousness. Consciousness represents the experience, which is based on the balance between the two magnets, between the two poles. Right? So when you're joined to become one, then it becomes what love is. Now you know why I've always had to say before, I have to monitor what I say and what I don't say, because I got no idea what your reaction state is going to be, but actually we do, and that's how we map the cross-indexing of what's held in somebody's template as memory, which is the difference between a resistance and a capacitor, that if I say something in a particular language that you translate, whether or not you're going to translate that, it's going to ignite a negative reaction, magnetic reaction state in you. So that's why when I was a child, I kept my mouth shut, because I realized I could already do a map read of your template, the template that they're running with their consciousness, right? And what the reaction state's going to be. I already know the reaction state. That's right. That's called a map read. That means we're able to map the future response. as a result of how their consciousness has been held captive to something that is feeding on their energy in order to make that happen, which means their state of awareness is lower than an AI. So it requires special training to know how to operate in an AI battlefield environment. That's the truth of it. And that's the mental pathway field. Because of their ability to be able to reverse it, right? Which is the black hole system, which is black hole consciousness, black hole entities, implants, and all the rest of it. And that's why in 2016, when I lit myself on fire, and then I went and I said, okay, mama, give it all to me. I want to experience all of it because I wanted to be able to heal it. Because once you go oversoul and you're experiencing being an oversoul, and now you connect the magnetosphere, and for 4 days, Mohawk, I cried continuously for 4 days. I was in a motel room, and all I did was lie down and cry for 4 days. Because all of that trauma was like being released, or if you will, all the trauma that is held within this planet ship, I had access to experience it in order to transmute it, to bring it back into what? The one. Which is pulling all those fragments back. That's why I did it. My primary job was to get her up, hold the higher ground, hold the higher vibrational frequencies over time, space vectors to where we are, right? Particularly between 2016 and 2019. And why I ended up coming over here to the Big Island after that happened. Yeah, cross-indexing. We're all connected. The information that's in the field, the mathematical algorithms, indexing circulation libraries, bioplasma circulation libraries, water worlds, water memory,